I'm going to show you how to make this ruffle wreath. It's a natural and wide foil mesh patriotic wreath. This is going to be very simple to do. We're going to do the ruffle technique, and I'm going to show you all the products that we're going to use. We're going to start out with a 24-inch pencil work wreath. This wreath actually measures 15 inches across the widest ring, but with the addition of your mesh, ribbon, and other products, you wind up with a wreath that measures 24 inches or greater. I have 2 or 3 different patriotic ribbons today, and you could choose from any of these. I think I'm going to use this faded flag and star stripe ribbon, and we're just going to make a wreath bow. And instead of ribbon strips, I think I'm going to use this faux jute flex tubing and just make like a little loop cluster, and we'll add that to the wreath. And then I also have some raz jute balls. These are just very lightweight and styrofoam. They don't have a hanger. This is just the price tag. I'm going to show you how to put a pick in that and attach it to the wreath. So the first thing we're going to do, let me just get this out of the way. I'm going to show you how I made the ruffles. I went ahead and made the wreath so it would, take less time. But you take your pencil wreath, and we're going to start on the outside edge. When you're doing the ruffle technique, it's a little easier to do the outside and then move to the inside. The mesh that we're using, and I'll give you that SKU number on the video, is 10 inches wide and 10 yards in length. So this wreath has 18 twists, so we're going to put a cluster of 3 ruffles in each twist, so you'll need 54 pieces. So it will take more than 1 roll, but not quite 2. This is what we had left last night from making this wreath. So you cut your pieces in 10-inch lengths and let that just fall naturally on your table, curl side down, and then you want to take and scrunch up or gather up through the center, your selvage edge or your uncut edges on the outside, and just scrunch up through the center. On this mesh, it works out great because you can scrunch up on that red piece of foil. And since I'm working by myself, I'm just going to take a chip clip and hold that ruffle. Take my second ruffle, do the same thing, just scrunch up through that middle. Now this time I'm just going to hold that ruffle in my hand. And then make the third ruffle. So when you take your ruffles to place them in your wreath, you don't want to just stack them all right on top of each other. So take one ruffle, kind of angle the next one on top of that, and then take your third one and kind of, offset it a little bit. So you've got a cluster of 3 ruffles. Open up a twist, take that cluster, and just secure it with your twist. You want to give it a couple of turns, enough to hold it well. I'm not going to twist it more than a couple of turns because we're going to come back and add something else to that. So there's your wreath with a cluster of 3 ruffles. So you work all the way around the wreath, and then when you get to the inside, of course this wreath is raised, if you can tell that. You get to the inside, you want to continue around that inner ring with the same 3 clusters. So next what we're going to do is do our flex tubing. This is a faux jute flex tubing. We have it in several different colors. There's either 20 yards, I think there's 20 yards in this bag. But I'm going to take the flex tubing and I cut a piece that's about 2 yards. This doesn't have to be, very exact, but I'm just going to hold it in my hand with just about 1 inch showing, and I'm just going to make just loops. I'm going to do, say, 3 loops on each end. I just want to have enough of the tail left that I can secure it. And then I'm going to open up a twist. I'm going to take this wreath down off that holder because it moves around. But what's important now is that you open up a twist. Make sure your ruffles stay in place. And then lay your jute tubing cluster on top of that, or bow on top of that, and then twist that back. Now, I don't know that I have enough in this bag to put a flex tubing cluster in each twist. So what I'm going to do is start out putting one in every other twist. And then if I have more, if I have more left over, I can always go back and add in some extras. This hangs up and sticks on everything. Just hold that little short end and just make 3 loops on each end. Just a bow. And then I'm going to skip a twist and go to the next one. Undo that twist. Make sure my ruffle stays in place. Lay my flex tubing down. And this time I can secure this twist with 3 or 4 turns because that's all I'm going to put in these twists. Okay? So I'm just going to continue to work around the wreath in every other twist. I'll just let that flex tubing fall off in the floor here. Now the flex tubing is stretchy. It is not wired. So just be careful, when you're cutting it, that you don't stretch it and cut it, or you'll wind up, your piece will be a little too short. Once you've put flex tubing in every other twist on the outer ring, then you want to move to the inside. I did the same size cluster. I'm down to the last cluster. Of course, the twists don't always work out evenly, but that's close enough. Okay. I don't know, the flex tubing just gives it a little different look. It's just a little something different from ribbon strips. If you wanted to add more red in, you could. We had this much left over. I'll probably just save this for another project myself. So that's how it's looking so far. Now next, we're going to add these Raz twine balls. They're natural red and blue. And it's always a good idea to hang your wreath up on the wall to find your placement. What I think I plan to do is position the balls over on this side and put a wreath bow on one side. So a good way to do that, since these balls don't have any hangers or anything, there's a tag on it, you can kind of work that ball down through there and take a clothespin and clip that tag from the back, just so that you can kind of hold it up and see where you want to place it. But you can do that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hang it up on the wall behind me and figure out where I want to place my balls. It always helps too, if you go ahead and add a hanger to your wreath, I just used a couple of zip ties, and that way you'll always know where the top part of your wreath is. So I just kind of eyeballed where I wanted to put the balls, and what I did was I left a yellow chenille stem in that place so that when I get ready to attach my balls, I'll know about where they need to go. So I plan to put a ball here, here, and here, and then I'm going to have a wreath bow go on this side. I'm going to show you how to, I'm burning up. I hope you can't see the sweat. It's hot in here. I have I'm using a glue pen, There's those other ribbons I wanted to show you. I just pushed them out of the way. This is the ribbon I'm going to use to make my wreath bow. But I have these 3 balls, and I have hot glue. Now since these balls don't have any sort of a hanger or anything to attach, I'm just going to clip off that price tag. Just going to take a small screwdriver and just gonna poke a hole into that styrofoam. Take a chenille stem and fold it in half. Kind of twist that a little bit. Some hot glue on it. Poke that down into the ball and let that dry. And then I'll have something to attach that to my wreath with. Now, our hot glue pan is nothing but an electric skillet, an inexpensive electric skillet from Walmart, and then we just use glue chips. Of course, you can also melt glue sticks or anything like that, but you just turn it on enough to get your glue melted, and then you can turn it on warm, and that works great. It works much better than a tiny little glue pot that you can get at a craft store. So this was just an inexpensive $20 Walmart electric skillet. Okay, so now I'm going to take my ball, and where I had placed my yellow chenille stem, I'm just going to work my fingers down through that and take the ball and use the chenille stem and attach it to the work wreath frame. And if you can attach the ball to where there's a straight post between the rings, that will help. But if you can't, you can attach the ball, and to help keep it from sliding around, you can take the ends of your chenille stem and wrap around the work wreath frame. But having that marker helps. And attaching these balls like this is a thing that I learned from Julie Samako at Southern Charm Wreath. If you've never seen her ebook that tells you how to do deco mesh wreath making, you should check it out. We have that on our website. If you just on our website search Julie or search ebook, she has a fantastic downloadable book that tells you how to make wreaths. Great tips, just great information. I have learned a lot from that. And by attaching the balls this way, you can always adjust the placement. If you need to, once you hang it on your wall, you think it needs to go somewhere else, you can always regroup and move it around. It's not permanently placed. We like to do things that are not permanent here at Trendy because we'll take things apart and use them again. Or if you're making it for yourself at home, if you're like me, I like to make a wreath and put it out for a few weeks, even a month or two maybe, depending on the season, and then I'm likely to take it down and take it apart and reuse the base for something else, or just remake it. We're going to use the bow dabber to make this bow today. This is the plastic piece, and then there's this little wand tool. The board is something that my husband made just to make it a little easier for me and make it more stable. The board measures 20 inches by 9, and he just took the plastic part of the Bow Dabra and drilled some holes in it, and then screwed the plastic piece down to the board. And then I put these markings so I could measure if I want to make an 8-inch bow, 12-inch bow, or 16. And then I also just used a magic or permanent marker and put those numbers on the back. This you can buy from Walmart. We used to sell this on Trendy, but we can't compete with Walmart, so you can buy one of these at Walmart. So the first thing you're going to do, we're not going to make a huge bow for this wreath. We're going to make about a 12-inch bow with tails. So I'm gonna cut my tails and let them hang down about 16 inches, and I can always make them shorter if I need to, but that's what I'm going to start with. This is a great ribbon. It has nice texture. It's a natural, kind of has a faded denim look. So that's going to be my tails, and I'm going to need a chenille stem or a zip tie. I like to use a zip tie because it holds everything a little bit better. And I'm just going to go ahead and lay my zip tie in. And then I'm going to take my tails and catch it in the center, and I'm going to put it down in the Bow Dabra, face side up. I'm just going to pull those tails down out of the way, and then I'm ready to start with my ribbon. Now I'm just going to let this is a 2.5-inch ribbon that has 10 yards on this roll. Just going to let that fall off in the floor, and then I'm going to take the ribbon and just slide it down the center of the Bow Dabra, and I'm going to leave 3 or 4 inches on this end, and then I have the ribbon face up, so I'm going to twist it. I'm going to make my bow about 12 inches, so I'm going to come out to my 12-inch mark on my side over here. I'm going to make a loop. Keeping the loops even is one of the hardest things about making a bow for me. I'm going to twist. I'm going to make another loop. Bring it back to the center. Just keep it kind of, and you can always take this little tool and scrunch down that center when it gets a little thick. Most of the tutorials that you see using the Bow Dabra from the Bow Dabra maker, they use very sheer, thin ribbons. So it's a little bit different when you're using a bulkier wire edge ribbon. It's not quite as easy, I guess, as it looks on some of the tutorials. Burlap ribbons especially. So now I have 2 loops on each side. I'm going to go ahead and make a third one. Just remember when you push that down to twist, you want that loop to be right side up. So I have 3 loops on each side. I think I'll go one more. And this will be my 4th loop on the other side. Okay, so now I'm ready to end off my ribbon. So I'm going to need to make one more small loop for the very center. So I'm going to twist again and come over and make just a couple of inches there, just so I'll have a center loop. Now at this point, I'm going to scrunch that down again, and I'm going to end off my ribbon. I'm going to leave it with just a couple of inches on this side. We'll have to cut this off later, but for right now, I'm just going to leave it like that. So now I have 4 loops, on each side, and I'm building my ribbon from the bottom up, and I have my tails. So I have my zip tie that I'm going to use to secure it with. So I'm going to very gently pull all of my pieces up, and ease them out of the Bow Dabra. Really, you didn't have to put the zip tie down there to start with. You can always do it at this point. But you want to keep everything stacked up. So I'm going to lay the zip tie down and bring it around to the back. and secure that before I go any further. I'm going to pull that tight. Now, before I tighten it all the way down, I'm going to take a chenille stem. Get a blue one. I'm going to take a chenille stem and thread under that zip tie because that's what I will use to secure my bow to the wreath. So now I'm ready to pull that zip tie tight. I've got it on the bottom. Pull it tight. Take my wire cutters and cut off the end of that zip tie. So now you've got your bow and you've got your chenille stem to secure it with. I'm just going to twist that a time or two. So now you're ready to take your bow and fluff it out. Now, remember that short tail where we started? I'm going to cut it off even shorter. Because we're going to take that center loop and kind of pull that over to cover up that raw edge where we started, okay? So we have that, and you remember we had the short tail where we started. So I'm going to cut that one off also. And now you can just take your ribbon, take your bow, and kind of fluff out your pieces, fluff out your loops. Like I say, this is not a huge bow. There's really a lot going on with this wreath already. We have mesh with the red, white, and blue foil stripes. I added some faux jute flex tubing, and then we have the balls. So that's why I just wanted to use one ribbon to make a bow to go on the side. So also you want to finish off the ends of your ribbon, and I like to do that by doing a chevron cut. So you just fold the ribbon edges together like that, and then cut along that folded edge, and then when you flip it out you have kind of a fish cut tail. So there's your bow, and now you're ready to just attach it to your wreath. Well, there's the wreath after we finished it. Now sometimes you have to, I usually say if you're attaching anything, you know, to the wreath, to work your fingers down and go all the way to the work wreath frame. Sometimes when you're attaching a bow, it can kind of get squished up if you do that. So if that's the case, you might have to just like make a loop with your chenille stem and attach it to one of the twists on the bow to kind of keep the bow out on the front and not squish down into the ruffles. Always go back. We have some strings to clip. You'll always have strings to clip with mesh. It all ravels. Some of it probably ravels worse than other. We have experimented with spraying paper mesh with Elmer's Craft-On spray adhesive, and that does help, but all of it will ravel. But just go back, clip your strings, and always check your wreath on the back and make sure you don't have any sharp edges from your zip ties or anything like that that might scratch your wall or door. This wreath measures about 26 inches in diameter now. All the supplies came from Trendy Tree, and like I say, there's lots of opportunities for substitution if you don't like this particular ribbon. And also, I wanted to show you this fabric mesh. This is, I'll give you the SKU number, but I believe it's Q415. 140 no, I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that. But it's a fabric mesh, and it's an all natural color. It has a jute in it. It has a very nice texture. I believe it ravels less, but it makes up pretty in the ruffle technique too, and it would look good with these ribbons. Okay, thanks for dropping in. Be sure and follow us on Facebook, where we're doing some Facebook Live tutorials, and check us out. See you next time. Bye-bye.